Today's story: the city that moves me around. As I stand here, wearing this uniform and stacking cans of soup on the grocery store shelves, I can't help but wonder how I got here. It feels like just yesterday I was walking across that high school stage, diploma in hand, a smile on my face that was a mixture of pride and relief. But now, at 19 years old, I find myself in this city, in this job, with a future that seems to have been preordained for me. I've always felt like I was being pushed from behind, nudged along a path that was already paved for me. Go to school, they said. Get good grades, they insisted. And so I did. I followed the rules, checked all the boxes, and now I'm here, stacking canned vegetables in aisle 3. It's not that I don't appreciate having a job, it's just that I wonder if this is really what I want. This city, the place I've called home for as long as I can remember, it feels like it has a life of its own. It's like an unstoppable force that just keeps propelling me forward, without ever bothering to ask me what I want. Sometimes I wish it would slow down and give me a chance to catch my breath. Life is rushing before my eyes, and I'm not sure if I'm even in control anymore. I look at the people around me, bustling through the store with their shopping lists and busy lives, and I can't help but feel like I'm just a cog in the machine. A small part of a much larger picture. It's funny how one moment can change the course of your life. I remember the day I received that thin envelope in the mail. It was from the university that my parents had set their hearts on for me, the one they believed would secure my future. They had dreams of me walking through those ivy-covered walls, pursuing a degree that would make them proud. I can still feel the sinking feeling in my chest as I opened that envelope and read the words that shattered their hopes, and in a way, mine too. We regret to inform you that we are unable to offer you admission at this time. It was a polite rejection, but it felt like a sledgehammer to the gut. I had always been a good student, the kind who aced exams and turned in assignments on time. But I guess it wasn't enough. Maybe my application essay wasn't captivating, or my extracurricular activities lacked that certain sparkle. Whatever it was, I was left without a plan B. My parents were disappointed, to say the least. I could see it in their eyes, the way they tried to hide their sadness behind forced smiles and encouraging words. They had invested so much in my education, and now it felt like I had let them down. For a while, I wandered aimlessly, trying to figure out what to do next. It was a dark period in my life, filled with uncertainty and self-doubt. All those years of being pushed to excel in school, and suddenly, I had hit a dead end. Months turned into a blur as I tirelessly applied to every promising job opportunity that could potentially launch me into a career. I revised my resume countless times, crafted cover letters that I hoped would stand out, and attended interview after interview, all in pursuit of that elusive break. But it seemed like the universe had a cruel sense of humor. Each rejection email that landed in my inbox was a reminder of my lack of a degree or experience. It was a vicious cycle. I couldn't get a job without experience, and I couldn't get experience without a job. It felt like I was stuck in a catch-22, and it was suffocating. I could see the disappointment in my parents' eyes, the worry that maybe I was wasting my potential. They didn't understand the job market had changed, that a degree was no longer a guaranteed ticket to success. They wanted the best for me, but their vision of success was rooted in a different era. As the months dragged on, I began to feel the weight of desperation. Bills were piling up, and my savings were dwindling. I had to do something, and that's when I saw the opening at the grocery store. It was a job I never imagined I'd take. I felt like I was settling, like I was resigning myself to a dead-end position with no room for growth. But the reality was, I needed a paycheck. I needed to survive. So, I reluctantly applied and, to my surprise, got the job. As I put on that uniform for the first time, I couldn't help but feel a sense of defeat. It was as if all my dreams of a fulfilling career had been shattered, replaced by the stark reality of stacking shelves and scanning groceries. I knew it wasn't what I had envisioned for myself, but it was a start. It was a way to earn a living and gain some much-needed experience. As I stood behind the cash register or stocked shelves, I found myself in a unique position to observe the diverse tapestry of humanity that flowed through the grocery store doors. People from all walks of life, each with their own stories and dreams, would pass by me every day. And in those fleeting moments of interaction, I couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. I watched as a young artist with paint-stained hands carefully selected vibrant fruits and vegetables, her eyes shining with creativity and passion. She was pursuing her dreams, unafraid to take risks and follow her heart. It reminded me that I, too, had the potential to become anything I wished, if I only had the courage to chase my dreams. Then there was the elderly couple, still holding hands after all those years, shopping together as they always did. Their love and commitment to each other were a reminder that life was about more than just careers and achievements. It was about the connections we forged and the love we shared. I saw the exhausted single parent juggling a cart full of groceries and a fussy child, a look of determination on their face. Their strength and resilience in the face of adversity reminded me that challenges could be overcome with perseverance and a strong will. And the friendly regulars who greeted me with warm smiles and small talk, they showed me the power of kindness and community. They made the mundane tasks of my job feel a little less monotonous, and I realized that sometimes, it's the simple moments of human connection that can bring joy to our lives. Each person who walked through those doors was a reminder that life was something that supposedly you had to forge. In the midst of the hustle and bustle of my daily life at the grocery store, there was one simple pleasure that I cherished above all else. It was a TV show, a humble and heartwarming series about a farmer who grew his own food and lived a life close to the land. Every evening, after my shift, I would eagerly return home, kick off my shoes, and tune in to watch this farmer's adventures. The show depicted a life that seemed so idyllic, so far removed from the chaos of the city. The farmer would wake up with the sunrise, tend to his crops and animals with care, and then, as the day drew to a close, he would sit on his porch, overlooking the fields he had cultivated, and sip on a steaming cup of tea. The simplicity of his existence was a stark contrast to the complexity of my own. I found myself daydreaming about that farmer's life, about the peace and contentment he seemed to exude. I yearned for the connection to nature that he enjoyed, the satisfaction of knowing exactly where your food came from, and the joy of watching the sun dip below the horizon at the end of a long day. In those moments, as I watched the farmer on screen, I couldn't help but envision myself in his shoes, quite literally. I imagined trading the grocery store aisles for rows of crops, the fluorescent lights for the warmth of the sun on my skin. I dreamed of a life where my work had a tangible impact on the world, where I could see the fruits of my labor grow and flourish. The city, with its towering buildings and bustling streets, had always been my home. But lately it felt like it was a living, breathing entity of its own, one that dictated the terms of my existence. It's as if the city had its own agenda, and I was just a pawn in its game. Every day, I would navigate the labyrinthine streets, dodging cars that roared by like predators on wheels. The constant rush and chaos of the city streets made me feel like a small, insignificant part of a much larger machine. I had to be careful, always vigilant, lest I become another casualty of the relentless urban sprawl. Crossing the street was an exercise in survival. The crosswalks were like battlefields, and the traffic lights were my only allies. The impatient drivers, their faces obscured by tinted windows, seemed to regard pedestrians as mere obstacles to be overcome. The city forced me to adapt to its rhythm, to move quickly and efficiently, or risk being left behind. I couldn't help but feel like I was living a life dictated by the whims of the city. It determined where I worked, where I lived, and how I spent my days. The constant noise and congestion were a never-ending assault on my senses. You know, I have something to tell you, a secret. I've been living a lie for the past several months, and it's a secret I've kept buried deep within me, hidden from my friends and family. It's a truth that I can no longer evade, a truth that I must confess now. As I sat down to take the university admission test, I made a conscious decision to sabotage myself. I knew the consequences of my actions, the disappointment it would bring to those who had high hopes for my future. It wasn't a careless mistake or a moment of weakness. It was a deliberate act, a radical step I took to regain control of my life. It might sound absurd to intentionally fail such a crucial test, especially when I had worked so hard to get to that point. But it was the only way I could think of to break free from the suffocating expectations that had been placed upon me. For too long, I had been living a life that wasn't my own, following a path that had been chosen for me by others. The pressure to conform, to meet the standards set by my parents and society, had become unbearable. I felt like I was drowning in the weight of their expectations, and it was suffocating me. So, I took that desperate measure, that drastic step, to take back control of my life. I knew that failing the admission test would be a shock, a disappointment to everyone who had invested so much in my education. But I needed to send a message to myself, to make it clear that I couldn't continue down a path that wasn't mine. Every paycheck I earn, every hour I spend stocking shelves and ringing up purchases, brings me one step closer to my goal. Leaving the city behind and finding a quieter, more peaceful place to call home. The thought of it is like a beacon of hope, a light at the end of the tunnel that keeps me going. I've saved every penny I could, cutting back on unnecessary expenses and making sacrifices to build a nest egg. The city has taught me the value of hard work and perseverance, and I'm determined to use those lessons to create a future that aligns with my own desires and dreams. I dream of a place where I can wake up to the sound of birdsong instead of sirens, where I can breathe fresh air instead of exhaust fumes, and where I can watch the stars twinkle in the night sky, unobscured by the city's bright lights. It's a place where life moves at a slower pace, where I can finally find the peace and tranquility I've been longing for. Leaving the city won't be easy. It will mean saying goodbye to the familiar, to the convenience of urban life, and to the people I've known for so long. But it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make for the chance to live life on my own terms, to discover who I truly am away from the noise and distractions of the city. My favorite show, with its portrayal of a farmer living a simple and fulfilling life, may have been a glimpse into the future I yearned for, a life closer to nature, slower in pace, and more aligned with my own desires and dreams. If you've listened until now, make sure you like and subscribe, so you'll know when the next story comes around.